we're now being joined by Arise analyst Doug Brooks to discuss the implications of these looming mass federal layoffs. The White House memo calls for cutting programs that do not align with the president's priorities. Doug, can you explain what specific programs are targeted and why they no longer serve the American people?
Yeah. It's not clear which programs are being targeted. This is the Trump administration making it up as they go along. They basically have decided the Department of Education is not worthy. That the USAID, the main arm we have for soft power around the world, that is not something that he wants to work with. So, yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what he will target if there's a shutdown. But we do know that he wants to fire quite a few federal workers. And then, of course, simply because of his policies, we're seeing a lot of layoffs in the private sector, especially in manufacturing.
And we also saw him trying to target the media as well. But I digress. What legal authority is the Trump administration relying on to fast-track these mass dismissals, particularly outside the normal civil service protections?
Yeah, well, that's a great question because there really is no legal authority. He can essentially do a reduction in force, a RIF as it's called, but that takes some time, and you can't do that arbitrarily as he, I think, intends to do. But what we've seen with the Trump administration is they just go ahead and do things. Much of the US system is based on norms, it's expectations because the previous presidents did things a certain way. And the Trump administration seems to be ignoring those. So what happens is the Trump administration will do something that is not considered normal, not considered legal. There'll be a legal challenge. Months will go by and then maybe it will get reversed. But by then, for example, with USAID, it's too late. Essentially, the agency was destroyed. Also, VOA. We're seeing it happen in numerous places in the US government, and it's simply the Trump administration going ahead and doing certain things and then not being stopped. And so, if they're going to do this reduction in force during a government shutdown, as it looks like may happen, there's nobody to really stop them. They may complain, they may go to court, but how long will that take?
Wouldn't you say this is just the big, beautiful bill taking effect?
Yeah, that's, I think, what the Democrats might say. They may be right on that. I don't know. But the big, beautiful bill covered a lot of different things and had a lot of detractors, even within the Republican Party. There are a lot of questions about it. There's a lot of belief that, if you cut back on the federal government too much, you cut back on the effectiveness of the federal government and kind of the point of the federal government. Is this all part of the big, beautiful bill? Well, it's not clear. But I think what the Democrats are saying now is that parts of the big beautiful bill, as it's called, need to be repealed, especially the health care. They basically want to say a lot of the health care things that were being taken out, which includes rural health care, which is really the Trump base. Um, the Democrats want that put back in, and the Republicans are loath to basically challenge Trump on this one. So it looks like we're going to have a federal shutdown.
It does, doesn't it? Well, what do you say to people who say that the administration is weaponizing the shutdown to justify sweeping layoffs? How do you respond to these accusations that is less about budget discipline and more about consolidating power?
Yeah, well, that seems to be exactly what it is, more of a consolidation of power. Trump has gone out of his way to make sure that anybody who is a regular civil servant and not showing loyalty to him as opposed to the U.S. Government or to the U.S. Constitution are being removed from office. And we even saw this in the Pentagon, unfortunately. And it's really politicized a lot of the American government that did not used to be political, and I think many commentators would say it's a very dangerous trend. We're now seeing, I think you may have already covered that they're bringing all these general officers to Virginia to meet with the Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And that's not quite clear why. This is supposed to be a democracy. We're supposed to have transparency on these things, but we don't know. And as I said, the Trump administration tends to just do things, and then when they get challenged on them, it goes to court, and months later, you may get a decision. The tariffs, for example, which have cost the country dearly, are going to finally make it to the Supreme Court in the beginning of November. Those tariffs were put in February, and it's already cost millions and billions actually in essentially more taxes on consumers. So it's been the Trump administration is really a bit of a loose cannon at this point.
Now, with federal employees describing themselves as terrified and disoriented, my heart certainly goes out to them. What can you say to these people who depend on these federal agencies for survival? What can you say to them
Yeah.
about their livelihoods and their career futures?
It's a great question. So in previous shutdowns, what would happen is, paychecks stop going out to the federal force. You have essential employees that will continue to work even though they're not being paid, and you have non-essential employees, which is most of the force, which can't work and they don't get paid. However, the law says that they get paid eventually. Once the government starts up again, they will get their back salaries and so on. So that's all good. Unfortunately, because Trump is now saying he's going to do this reduction in force or whatever if the government shuts down, we don't know that those employees who get essentially furloughed will actually get paychecks after that, or rather, Trump will challenge that, and that means that essentially a whole lot of federal employees are really worried about their jobs and making their mortgages and everything else. And this is thousands and thousands of employees around the country. So this could be, yeah, it's hard to say to be sympathetic to them because essentially you can't really say that this will be fixed at some point. It's not clear that it will. So this could be a huge disaster. I think one thing that's already come up is the Weather Service, which federal, and helps in terms of tracking hurricanes and things. A lot of those people were already let go from the federal government, and so it's undermanned, and you have hurricane season now. So the remaining employees are overworked, and they're supposed to be providing information to the states on what they need to worry about, on the likelihood of hurricanes hitting, and so on. Also, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, that was cut back, and the head of the agency has been essentially ducking his. When the floods hit Texas, he was nowhere to be found, and he's required by law to be findable. So it's kind of a rough time for the federal government, and if you're an employee of the federal government, it's not a happy time at all.
Well, I can't help but think about the long-term risks that the US is facing if these layoffs do happen. I mean, economic instability, weakened national security. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely correct. Now, the Department of Defense has not been cut back very much. There was word that they were going to have to make some reductions, but we've not seen that other than Trump making sure that anybody who's loyal to the Constitution is removed as opposed to being loyal to him. So, in that particular sense, that national security, you can say, well, that's still getting fully funded. Other things, in terms of economically, well, we're already seeing the layoffs. We're seeing the inflation is starting to go up, and we're seeing the unemployment numbers are going up. And this is really interesting because the area that's losing the most employees now is actually manufacturing, which is a very sector that Trump promised he would be helping with this tariff system. But you're seeing thousands, upwards of 70,000 job losses in manufacturing this year since January, since Trump came in. So I think we are going to see some real economic problems, and from a security perspective, well, I guess we have to look at Trump's policies on security, and there's been indications he wants to remove troops from Europe and bring them back to the United States. Is it related to this, the idea of sending troops to Portland or not, and maybe other cities that he does not consider supportive of him? Who knows? But it does not bode well, I think, for international security and certainly for U.S. security.
Well, it certainly seems like a sticky situation for the US government. Doug, thank you so much for joining us on Arise America. See you next time.
Always a